I know our editing team's so good. I don't know if our listeners will be able to know that we've been just absolutely struggle busing on the internet connection between all of us. So hopefully it hasn't been too obvious, but fingers crossed today it goes a little better. Happy to be back and able to see your guys' faces. How are you guys? Logan?
Dude, were you just introing? Because we just messed it up if you did.
Yeah. If that was an intro,
huh?
you just froze for a second. You're back now. Everything's fine. Nobody panic. We're good. We're totally fine. No, it was good. Yeah, we're rolling. We're in school now. I know that. I'm pretty sure the Lloyds are working homeschooling with their Canon, and we started homeschooling Conley first grade, and then the boys are in pre-K. So, trying to settle into a new school year rhythm and not melt in the 100-degree, 89% humidity weather we've got going on here. So that's pretty much what we're doing. We're just trying to keep our head above water.
Ooh. That's good. Hopefully it'll get easier. I am not envious of the temperatures you guys are going through right now. I tell you that. That sounds oof.
Yeah, it's
real rough. I know Paul's probably sweating in his garage already.
It's not, surprisingly, I'm not yet. I don't know if I'm just adapted to it yet or what, but like it's been about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. It is it gets pretty unbearable at that point, but right now it's not bad. So
usually
we're in the last week of August here. We've got temperatures in the triple digits still, so it's just after there's supposed to be a cold front coming in through on Friday. The high on Saturday is only 93 degrees.
It will feel like a cold front.
You're gonna need a hoodie.
It will feel amazing.
Gonna need,
especially if it wipes out some of the humidity.
That ain't no joke. I'm on this 2-shower schedule where I take a shower at night before I go to bed, and then I have to take a shower again after we podcast. After we podcast, I from sitting in the RV, and I am just like wringing wet with sweat by the time we get done podcasting. So, anyway, the sacrifices we make.
Yeah, I almost took a shower before. I almost took a shower first thing this morning, and I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna get sweaty enough by 11 o'clock. I should just wait."
just wait. Yeah, that's funny.
That's funny.
Oh man.
Well, sucks for you guys. You can always come up here and visit. It's a little cooler. It's like 50 degrees outside right now. Next week, nothing over 75. So,
yeah. See, that's borderline on like too cold for me though. Like, see, like I'll take the heat because then like fall and winter is not as brutal.
That's true. I don't know, bro. That day we went fishing at your place was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like it was still like barely below freezing. Like it's the humidity. Like the humidity doesn't go away here. But I'm pretty well used to that. I grew up next to a Great Lake, and anybody that lives next to the Great Lakes knows that it is humid all the time. And in the dead of winter up there, it gets like 20 below and humid. And so it's like the most brutal cold that you'll ever feel. I remember, man, okay, this is way off topic, but I remember working a construction job several years ago, and there was a guy from Montana, and in the wintertime, like he was complaining about how cold it was, and I remember asking him, I'm like, man, you're from Montana, like what are you talking about? You should be used to this cold. And he's like, no, man, this is different. He's like, this is very like different, bone chilling cold. Like, yeah, I get that.
Cuts to the core. That is the worst.
Yeah.
The worst. Guys, we're freaking coming up on the last 4 weeks of Rodeo. Like for the 2023 season.
Crazy.
And I am, where did it go? Yeah, it always goes, it's going faster and faster each year. Like it really is. But we're starting to see, starting to kind of all pan out. We're starting to see the playoff series is going to come up in 3 weeks, I think. And so you're starting to see the top 12 guys in that. We're starting to see that top 15 start to shift around a lot in some events right now. And some of those guys that were not going to as many rodeos in the beginning and weren't, right up there. And Richie, for instance, my brother was one of the guys. Like everyone's like, why isn't Richie in the top 15? I'm like, well, he hasn't been to that many yet. And once they start going and really taking advantage of everything they've learned over the years of rodeo, like, hey, all the money's won from Cheyenne on. Like it's getting to Cheyenne is great, but like that's where you really are going to make or break. And yeah, he's already propelled himself in the top 15, which is awesome. Go Richie. But it's just cool to see everyone.
He's been crushing like everywhere.
He has, man. He's had a great couple months, and he's riding outstanding. So love to see it. He's going to be a new dad soon, which is really cool. I'm going to be an uncle. Wild.
That's coming up quick too.
Yeah, that's coming up really
Probably
quick.
By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be here.
I bet it would be really close to when this comes out. There will be another champion on the ground.
Oh boy, look out, world!
Look out, world! Oh, but yeah, it's funny, dude. I'm excited about that, but I'm excited to see how the rest of this goes, man. We've got a lot of big weeks coming up. Ellensburg, that whole I know, dude. That's just like the fourth to me. I mean, you're doubled up 3 out of 5 days. You're going to 7 rodeos in 5 days, and then you're going to short rounds. Everyone's hustling hard to make it right now. So I'm excited to see how it's going to pan out. And what we're going to see is all these guys that have been doing the minimal amount of maintenance work to get that maximum dose to keep them going are going to be the guys that are going to pile that money in over these next 4 weeks. And you're going to see those guys flying up the leaderboards. And it's always so funny to me because it's legit just 2 or 3 guys or 4 guys in each event, or girls, that win it all. Like they just get hot during this time. And it's those people that have been taking care of themselves and really setting themselves up to take advantage of this time of the year. And we've talked about this since we started Champion Living Fitness. Like the NFR and everything that you want to do is done from end of July on. Everything up to that is cool, but you can make the NFR legit in those 3 months. And we've seen guys do it. So I'm excited to see all the guys and girls fight it out these last 4 weeks. It's going to be a good battle and a lot of excitement, man. It's just always so cool. I love this time of year. Ellensburg, Pendleton.
It's by far my
PNW run, Bremerton.
Year for sure. Oh. Yeah. Dude, it's so good because it's super exciting. There's always a couple stories, right? There's always a couple stories that emerge of like 2 or 3 guys that are battling it out, and that it comes down to who can get where. Do you have to charter a plane? Do you who can draw what at what rodeos? And they're all over the place. And I remember maybe in 18 or 19, they did there was like I can't remember who put it out, but somebody produced a video. They followed Mason Clements around for like the last week or last few days of him trying to make the NFR. And he was like on the bubble, same thing, trying to figure out, do I go? Do I not go? Where do I go? It was really, really interesting. It was a super cool little video that they put together of that process. And it is stressful. I can only imagine for those guys trying to squeak in.
Oh yeah. That last weekend of the season is always that Stevensville, and then what's that rodeo in California that they have to pretty much either go to both or pick between, and they're legit getting on one and running to the airport to hopefully make it to the other. So that last day is always kind of wild, and there's always a guy that bumps in from that 16th spot into 15 and makes his NFR off of that weekend. So like I said, lots of excitement coming up. I know we're all stoked for our athletes. Our athletes are, been performing very, very well. I've had a lot less little injuries this year, and I think that's just due to the guys seeing the value of putting that work in throughout the entire season. And I remember the beginning of this year, I've been training some guys for 2 or 3 years now, and that's been the hardest part, is to find that consistency. And last year was the first time we really started to see guys, they're not hitting it every day. They're 2 or 3 a week, maybe, just because of the competition volume is so high. But they're seeing that value, and they're seeing how they feel when they get to September, and they're like, dude, let's keep going. The season ends. And I had guys last year like, I'm ready I don't want it to end. Like, I want to keep going. I got to feel great. So we're starting to see a change in the evolution of the athlete, which I think is badass. And also kind of leads us to what we're talking about today, and just mindset, man, having that growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and how to improve upon a growth mindset. And so we're going to talk about, what that is, what the definition of growth mindset is and a fixed mindset, some things you can do to improve upon your growth mindset, and just some actionable things as well. But mindset's everything, guys. We know this. It's all pieces of the puzzle, but I think that in rodeo, 90% of it is definitely mental, and it can be the hardest thing to train. So, Paul, what do you like? What's the definition of a growth mindset versus a fixed?
Yeah. So the whole concept of a growth mindset was kind of coined by Carol Dweck. She's a Stanford psychologist. Has a really great book out titled Mindset. And when I read it a few years ago, it kind of changed everything for me. I'd been into different self development books for a while, and that one really put a whole different perspective on it, because it allowed me to see that even though I was consuming this other content, I was still had a fixed mindset around certain things, and I had growth mindsets in other areas, but you have a fixed mindset around certain things. And so what she kind of calls them, and I think what I've got here is her direct quotes from the book, so I'll just read those. In a fixed mindset, people believe their basic qualities, like their intelligence or talent, are simply fixed traits. They are spending their time documenting their intelligence or talent instead of developing them. They also believe that talent alone creates success without effort. And when I read that, I was like, shit, that's me.
Yeah.
But here's the good news. If that's you, if you resonated with that, here's the good news. In a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point, and this view creates a love of learning and resilience that is essential for a great accomplishment. And basically, the entire book goes into detail about how you can actually transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And that's what we're going to get into here today. We've got some steps laid out for, what can you do today and what can you do over the long term. And I think it's important to know also, like I kind of hit it on just a few minutes ago, was you're going to have a fixed mindset in certain areas of your life, and you're going to have a growth mindset in other areas of your life. And just looking at, you need to kind of pick out where you are, identify where you have this fixed mindset, and then try to make changes and shift it towards a growth mindset.
Absolutely. Let's get into the immediate stuff we can do. I know we got 7 steps here. Logan, why don't you kind of just run us through these first 2 and kind of explain how we can use those to help jumpstart that growth mindset?
Well, we talk about this with nutrition, right? If you can't track it, you can't fix it. The first step is you've got to be able to have a real conversation with yourself, an assessment of your mindset. We've got to figure out exactly where you're at. You've got to be able to determine whether you lean more towards a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. Like Paul said, naturally what happens for me when I read that book, I thought about all the ways in which I had a growth mindset. And I'm like, oh, that's not me. I'm good. I have a growth, because there are a few areas of my life in which I tend to have a growth mindset. There's also quite a few when you really sit down and think about it in which I have a fix. So we've got to be able to assess that. And the second thing I would say is we've got to identify our motivations. We have to understand the personal reasons. Why are you really pursuing this growth mindset? Why do you want to break out of a fixed mindset? What's the underlying issue there that's driving you to change your mindset?
Absolutely, man. And that is so important to assess and realize which portions of your life you are growth versus a fixed mindset, because now you can start working on those things individually. And my favorite thing, my next step, is finding a mentor or like real life examples, someone that has been through that or has had the same kind of mindset that you have and has overcome that or changed it, and using those examples to help yourself. It may not be the same exact thing, but I always think that looking at real life examples and finding, people that have, done what you want to do is a really, really valuable tool when trying to kind of activate that growth mindset. And then another thing I think is really important is reinterpreting failure. And people get just shell shocked by a quote unquote failure, right? And they think that's the end. And when we start shifting our perspective on failure as it being a part of a learning process. You didn't fail, you learned. You didn't lose, you learned, right? And that's huge, because now you are taking out the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's not bad. Failure isn't bad anymore when you start looking at it that way, right? It's all a learning experience. And once you can develop that and accept that, you are going to be able to grow so much further beyond where you were. Paul, what are a couple of things you got for us?
Yeah. So the next kind of couple things I would say would be like acknowledging like where you actually have limitations. And this was really difficult for me at the beginning before I really understood this, because I was not recognizing like I just kind of it's weird because I thought the sky was the limit, but I still had a fixed mindset, at least in my rodeo career. And so like you need to recognize these areas where like growth might be a little bit more challenging. And in the pursuit of a gold buckle or anything in rodeo, really, like there's going to be some serious challenges. Like there's factors outside of your control. And what led me to notice like where I had this fixed mindset in rodeo was like kind of growing up. When I looked back on growing up, was like I was I was mediocre, but I was better than those kind of around me. And so, you'd go back behind the buck and shoots, win, lose, or draw. You'd get slapped on the back and be like, man, like you're good. You got talent. You can go far. You can do this. You can do that. And so like you hear this like over and over and over and over again, and you start to think, well, my talent should just take me to the top. And recognizing that is a fixed mindset, you're automatically putting constraints on yourself. And so rodeo's tough. Like it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. And so recognizing the limitations that you're going to face is super important. Otherwise, you'll be stuck forever in a fixed mindset and you'll never get to where you want to go. The other thing that I would say is I think I learned this one probably earlier on, but definitely once I got into this book, I really started to take note of my thoughts. And so I started to monitor like the language and actions that I like with self-talk, the way I talk to other people, and how that's going to actually influence my mindset. Because we can think one thing, but if we say another thing to somebody out loud, like that's probably more where we're going to lean, like where our I don't even know what the word I'm trying to say is, but like our kind of like set personality traits or whatever you want to call it. That's where we're going to lean towards. Our habits and stuff are going to be based off of what we say, not necessarily like what we want. So you can think all day that you want a growth mindset, but you're still dogging the weather, you're dogging your draw, you're dogging the conditions. Like that's probably where you're going to lean. Like you're going to fail in those areas because you have this negative mindset around things.
Yeah, and I think that directly correlates to law of attraction, and your beliefs are what you think is what you become, right? And we've talked about that multiple times here, and that's one of the biggest things that at an early age helped me a lot with my mindset and wanting to achieve goals was, dang, I don't talk to myself or talk about situations very positively. And I wonder why they're not turning out well. It's because I'm putting a bunch of bad energy out there towards it and it's coming right back to me. So the second you start paying attention to how you talk to yourself, how you talk about certain situations, it changes. You're already growing there, right? You're already in that growth mindset. Let's talk about some long-term actions that we can do. That was 6 immediate things we can do right now to start working on a growth mindset. But we all know that those initial things are the easiest to do, and the long-term things are really where we see the most progress and can subsequently not be the hardest things to do, but being consistent and continuing to work on it past seeing those little results is tough. So Logan, what do you think, like 2 things long-term wise someone can do to deepen that growth mindset?
Yeah. This is where the rubber meets the road. Anybody can listen to those first 6 things and go, oh, I can do that. But this is where this is the difference between being able to actually apply it. And the first thing is, man, we've got to look for challenges as a positive thing, embracing some obstacles and understanding that that's an opportunity for us to grow. Every time, if you're a rodeo athlete that's tried to make the finals for the last couple times, every time you don't make the finals, if you didn't learn something, you missed a really good opportunity to. Those challenges, those obstacles that you had to face were an opportunity for you to become a different athlete. And maybe this year, the year doesn't go on the way that you wanted it to. That's great, because you can be a completely different athlete in 2024 if you will take a lesson from that and learn. So embracing those challenges, looking for opportunities for growth. If we understand that failure is really just learning, we can fail forward. We're going to be growing. And but we've also got to be able to reflect a little bit, and it really goes hand in hand with the first thing that I said. But we've got to be able to reflect on briefly. We don't want to dwell on those quote unquote failures or things that we did wrong, but we do have to be able to reflect on them to think, okay, what could I have done better? Where could I have been a better athlete or a better husband or father, whatever it might be that you're trying to build this growth mindset in? Where was the mistake that I made? How can I be better? And then once we've been able to reflect on that and we can pinpoint that, then we can change it. And that's a way for us to be able to grow and quote unquote fail forward in the future.
Damn right, dude. It's a very healthy thing to learn from your setbacks and failures. And it's one of the main reasons that you're going to expand beyond a fixed growth or a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And you're going to see a lot of, man, you're going to progress so much faster. And I think this next thing we're going to chat about is, these are all just they're all correlated, right? They all link to each other. But once we start learning from our failures, we start avoiding that shift in approval seeking behavior. Meaning, like, I want this for the, like Paul was saying, like, no matter how I did, I got that pat on the back because, like, you have the talent, man. Like, you've got it in you. But after a while, that becomes the only reason that that's your approval, is a slap on the back, right? It's not the pursuing growth, the overcoming that adversity, accepting those challenges and learning from those failures. Once you start getting away from that approval seeking behavior, dude, sky is the limit. You don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. You're just doing what you know to do to grow. And you're going to see huge gains when you start doing that. Another thing that I think is really important, which I think that all rodeo athletes do this very well because we're all just so tight, but celebrating other people's success and accomplishments and learning from those as well. Like we talked about, seeing those real life examples. If you want to be a world champion bareback rider, look at Casey Field. Like, what are the things that guy is doing every day? If you want to be a world champion tie down roper, what's Tyson Durfee doing every day? Like, look at those examples, celebrate them achieving big feats, and take notes, and let's go accomplish one more step of that feat. Let's take that one step further. So I think that's a huge thing. Paul, did I go through them all? You got a couple things as well.
No, yeah, I've still got some. I just want to hit on that last one. Like, celebrating somebody else's success never takes away from yours.
No.
So, like, there's never a negative effect from cheering on somebody else when they're doing well. And I think what you said, that rodeo athletes are good at that, like, maybe on the forefront, but maybe behind closed doors, not so much.
I guarantee.
There's a little bit of jealousy.
Oh yeah.
There's a little bit of jealousy, like, oh, well, he's winning, he's drawing good, like, what was me? Like, I wish if I drew that one, I could have won too. I'm sure that we've all thought that or heard that at some point. And so, being happy or celebrating somebody else's success is never going to take away from yours. So I think that's a great one. But
side note,
so
can I put a side note in real quick on that?
Yeah, go for it.
The guys that we see with that mindset are usually not those guys that are in that top 15 ever, right? We see them around like 17 and down.
Never. Yeah.
And they hang out there because they're stuck. They're stuck there. I didn't make it because they like this guy better than me, or he drew better than I did. Like, no, dude, that's not it at all. It's how you thought about the whole situation and what you're going into. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just was thinking about that. And it's like, nope, those top 15 are not doing that for the most part.
Yeah, because if you're wondering if you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, and you've ever said any of those things, like, you have a fixed mindset.
Amen.
That's
amen.
That you can fix.
Yeah.
But this one's big, and this one's big in I think in rodeo, in everything, in parenting. It's been huge for me. Rewarding actions, not traits. And so we want to encourage the growth
Dude, I
mindset
love
by
that.
like acknowledging somebody's effort. And we found this. It talks about it in great detail about like she did Dr. Carol Dweck in the book talks about these different studies they did on children with their like putting together puzzles. And what they found was if you rewarded the children by saying like, "Oh, you did that puzzle, you're so smart," they would automatically draw into a fixed mindset. And that goes, kind of back to I think what we were talking about earlier, like the whole talent thing. If they would say like, "Wow, you worked really hard and you worked through that and you came out victorious, like you won," then that would encourage a growth mindset. And on the next puzzle, they would want a more challenging one, whereas the other kids wanted an easier one again so that they could look smart again. Um, so rewarding actions and not traits. Like we try to do this with my kids too, because anytime you say like, "Oh man, you're learning so fast, you're so smart," they're automatically going to draw into that fixed mindset. And so we try to shift that, and we don't say, "Oh, you're so smart." We're like, "Wow, I'm really proud of your hard work. Like I'm really proud of your determination, and you didn't quit." And then they want more challenge after that. So um and then the other thing that I would probably tag on to this, the last step, would be like changing your language and including the word yet. And so this is one that I've been doing a lot lately, and it's kind of fun because like my son will again ask me, "Oh, Dad, can you do this?" And I'm like, "Well, not yet, I can't, because I can learn how to do something." He's like, "Oh, can you play the piano? Can you speak Spanish?" It's like, "Not yet, but I can. Like I can do it
Yeah.
if I want to." And so I think incorporating that word "yet" is like it allows your brain to stay open minded to the potential for growth, and you're never putting a cap on the amount of improvement that you can take.
Words matter, dude. That's huge. Like
Big
that's
time.
monstrous in the terms of having a growth mindset, achieving huge things in athletics, business, whatever. You've got to that's huge. I really really love that. Because you think about it, do you know how to do that? No. Like, oh, okay. Well, there's pretty fixed. We got a pretty fixed mindset there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That adding that simple word "a yet" just changes everything for us. Um,
Yeah,
guys, girls,
real
go ahead.
quick, another one we've been
You're good.
trying to steer the kids away from is trying to teach them not to say the "I can't." Um, and
Yeah,
I think incorporating that
that's
word
the real C
like "not
word.
yet" would be another good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And so what I always try to tell them is like, like, "Oh, well, if don't say you can't, like say like, "Oh, I just need a little help on this." Because then, if I help you, you can figure it out, or you can get whatever done that you're trying to do. And I think adding "not yet" into their vocabulary would probably be an amazing head start on adopting a growth mindset for them.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, child or not, that's a great way to start achieving a growth mindset. Rodeo athletes that are listening right now, we just ran through, I don't know, 13, 14 individual steps that we can start to help moving away from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. If you've never done this before, just make sure you're assessing the current mindset that you're in, identifying personal reasons that you might be pursuing that growth mindset, because without that, we don't know which way we're headed. Seek those real life examples from people that have successfully developed a growth mindset, doing things that you're doing. Make sure you're reinterpreting failure, guys, girls. Like, shift that perspective. Let's learn from failure and make that a positive process. You didn't fail, you learned from it. Recognize places in your life that growth might be a little bit more challenging, because those are going to be the times that you're going to have to really work on how you're talking to yourself, why you're motivated to keep going. And like we just said, monitor that language and actions that you're doing to get there. There's a direct correlation between having a growth mindset and being a world champion in any rodeo event. And we see that across the board. Look at it right now. Casey Fields, Stetson Wright, Jackie Crawford. There's all of these people do not have a fixed mindset. They are incredibly growth mindsets. They're constantly working on themselves, pursuing growth and getting better. And these are people that have hit the pinnacles of the sport already, and they're pushing past that. So find those people that you can learn from and start learning from yourself as well. And we just all encourage you guys, like, start doing these actionable steps. I know it sounds silly at times, but it's this simple. You just need to put the work in and do it. If you're realizing that you're in a fixed mindset, get the paper out, assess where you're at, put these tips to use. And if you have any questions, shoot us a DM. All of us would love to message back and forth. I get questions all the time about it. And we're more than happy to answer questions for you guys and kind of dive deeper into, maybe a particular area that we didn't cover on the show that you're really interested in. We'd love to cover that with you guys. And guys, I got to thank our sponsors. Beastmaster Rodeo, been with us since day one, the elite rodeo gear company in the world. Check them out at beastmasterrodeo.com. Our discount code is CHAMPIONLIVING, all one word, uppercase, and HOOEY brands. Guys, check out their lids. They got a whole new fall and winter line coming out. I know we've been talking about 100 degrees, but those cooler temps are coming, and I promise these Habitat hoodies are legit. Check them out, y'all. HOOEYBrands.com. Use our discount code CHAMPIONLIVING, all one word, going to save you 10% on all HOOEY gear. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.